It all started with two old pals. My dad, Joe Sawchyn, and his best friend, Peter Lapchuk. Golfing buddies, drinking buddies. They would be compared to Ralph Cramden and Ned Norton by one generation, and to Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble by the next. To my dad, history was everything. Without a past, there was no future. So, on November 2nd, 1952, just hours before our grandparents were to board a train heading east to Windsor and their retirement, Joe and Pete brought home a phonograph machine.
We are talking to you from the Sawchyn residence at 2747 Wallace Street. Today is November the 2nd. It's in the afternoon. And this is a farewell gathering for my dad, Mr. and Mrs. Sawchyn of Burbank, who are on their way to Windsor. So we have quite a few little kiddies around here. What we're going to do, we're going to let each one of them say something about how they feel about Grandma and Grandpa going away. So I'll ask the biggest lad in the house, first of all, Junior Rough Rider, to say a few words.
Goodbye, Grandma and Grandpa. I hope you find your new home to your liking. I hope to see you again in the future. Bye, Bobby. Hope you remember the kids, eh?
For they are jolly good fellows, for they are jolly good fellows, for they are jolly good fellows.
They cut 6 records that day, goodbyes and well wishes, and the obligatory performances of children immersed in their Ukrainian roots.
Dear children and grandchildren, we hope that you have a very best of luck and be happy always, all of your life.
Grandma and Grandpa left for Windsor and spent their remaining years in their garden. They never received those records. They were found in the attic many years later. Our family was large by most standards. It actually consisted of 2 smaller families. Sergei, Sonia, Ginger, and Gerald were born before World War II. The war took Dad away from Mum for 5 years. He joined the Air Force and was stationed in Calgary. When it ended, Jane, Norman, and Lois appeared in rapid succession. And finally, in 1954, little Peter Ellen. Mum said, "Enough is enough," and Dad counted his blessings. When Peter arrived, Dad and his buddy had another idea. They borrowed a home movie camera, and thus began a record which would see our family through the next 10 years. Dad wanted to document the important things, the highlights of a striving family's achievements, of its success. In 1959, after 3 years of hard work and study, Sonia would graduate as a registered nurse.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're gonna rock around the clock tonight. Put your glad rags on, join me home. We'll have some fun when the clock strikes 1.
This was an occasion that warranted a visit from Windsor, and from our grocers, Sam and Edith. Sonia was the first to achieve a higher education. Dad was never prouder nor happier. As a gift, he gave her a Kodak movie camera. Now there were 2, and the documentation continued. 1959 would be a busy year for Dad's camera. It was the summer of Queen Elizabeth's visit, and Dad took us kids to witness history in the making. That same summer, he felt compelled to record the efforts of the Regina Junior Ukrainian dancers. the Sawchyn family, the Christmas of 1959 will be remembered as the best Christmas ever. The eldest of the kids had jobs. They were all making money and had been raised to be generous and kind. The result was a level of gift-giving never before equaled. Some would say, never since. It was a Christmas blessed with the presence of Sister Ginger. She had moved to Toronto earlier that year. And it was the first Christmas to include Sonia's boyfriend John. He was later to tell Sonia he'd love to be a part of our crazy family. She agreed to marry him, but first he'd have to meet the rest of the clan, the Farians of Shortdale, Manitoba. Grandma Farian lived alone in the back of Uncle John's post office. She left the farm shortly after Grandpa died in 1956. The home she left had been nestled among the hills, right beside the crystal clear lake that Grandpa called his own. Grandpa had built the homestead out of logs and clay in the traditional fashion, and Grandma had planted the gardens. Now in Shortdale she had a new garden, but most importantly, she was close to family. The next decade went by in a flash, a string of weddings and childbirths as the family spread and grew. Proud grandparents would celebrate their special anniversaries. Children would come home and would go away again. Through it all, Dad kept his camera rolling and captured forever the shadows of the children we were. In the faces of our loved ones and our friends, we see the legacy he has left us. We see ourselves as we once were. We hear our tiny voices once again.
I'm 2.5. You're 2.5, eh?
A precious gift of memories. Dai Boja, Dad, and thanks.